My grandmama's last words to us every single night that I can remember, regardless of whether it was when she lived in town or out in the pond house, because Grandma would move back and forth. And she would go, I love you the goodest. And we'd go, we love you the goodest too, but I love you the goodest more. I realize now she's trying to get us to go to sleep. And she would say it until we couldn't say it anymore.
Well, to meet Miss Lillian was an experience. Miss Lillian was a feisty lady, exuding Southern charm and gentility. We liked her. Most of the reporters that I know that met her liked her because she was an interesting person.
She was something special. A lady that's God put on earth for making people happy. She was tough. She loved life.
Physically, she would stand as tall as she could, you know, and she did not mind speaking very forceful if she felt like it was needed. She did not mind telling you exactly what she thought. No beans about it. This is how I feel. Take it or leave it.
Back then, women just had babies, stayed home and they took care of the house. And she played poker, she did lots of things that traditional women were not doing back then.
We would talk over the back fence, and she would say, do you like different kinds of fruit? Well, these doggone people brought me some of this fruit. I hate it. I'm not going to eat it. Would y'all like to have it? And don't ask me to keep your children because I'm not going to. You just knew where you stood with her.
She had a great sense of humor. Nothing she ever did really shocked me, I don't think.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's Johnny.
My first guest tonight, in addition, of course, to being the mother of the President of the United States, has received numerous awards herself in recognition of many outstanding years of humanitarian service to others. And it's been quite a while since we've had such a picturesque, quotable, and colorful presidential mother who's appeared on the White House scene. And it's a great pleasure and honor to have her here tonight. Would you welcome, please, Miss Lillian Carter.
My name is Lillian Carter, born Bessie Lillian Gordy. I was born in 1898, yes, more than a century ago. Oh, and I had a very full life. Every time I thought I was growing old and getting closer to the grave, something else would happen. Well, I have passed away now, which is why I can talk about my entire life and beyond in the past tense. I was born in what is now referred to as the Deep South, Richland, Georgia. But in our house, when I was growing up, my papa respected people on their own terms, white or black. My papa valued hard work and honesty. Papa let me speak my mind, even when we disagreed. Oh, and don't get me wrong, my papa was no saint. After he married Mama, a couple times a year, he'd say to Mama, Ida, I'm going out to the farm, and he'd just disappear. A few weeks later, he'd come walking through the front door like he'd just been to the drugstore. I know that frustrated Mama, but she never said anything. I knew he loved us, so I always wondered why he didn't take us with him. But I got used to it. Might have been my first lesson in letting people be who they really are, even if it hurts. On my wedding day, Mama told me how she dealt with frustrations at home. I'm sure she was preparing me for my own marriage. When things got tough on Mama, she'd come out the back of the house and she'd get into the middle of a large field where no one could hear her. And she'd scream, "Damn! Damn! Damn!" as loud as she could. Then she'd come back in the house and pick up the Bible. Mama found great comfort in reading the Bible. I too found comfort in the Bible. I also found great relief in screaming. Now, you might find it interesting to know that the first date that I had once I moved Flames was not with my future husband, Earl Carter, but it was where I met him. I was in nursing training, and I went to a dance at Magnolia Springs. I went with George Tanner, and George's sister Lucy came with us, and Earl was her date. Now, I didn't expect I'd be talking to Earl very much that night. I'd seen him around town, and I thought he was too big for his britches. Oh, I have seen you showing off at the swimming hole, doing backflips and thinking all the girls are watching you. Yes, I've seen. No, I wasn't watching you. No, I saw you. I just happened to. It was something I didn't mean to. I mean, it wasn't on purpose. Oh! I was sort of put off by Earl Carter. I was determined never to speak to him again. Well, that didn't work out so well, praise the Lord. I don't know if I believe in destiny or not, but as put off as I was by Earl Carter that night, I somehow had the feeling that we were going to see each other again, and soon. Well, in 1923, Earl Carter and I were married. And the next year, October 1st, 1924, Jimmy was born. James Earl Carter II.
I remember Mother as being a very benevolent, somewhat distant presence in my very early life, maintaining the image of a hardworking parent whom I was always eager to see, but her presence in the house was kind of, you know, a rarity, but a precious one.
In 1937, Billy was born. Now, Billy was really a good boy, you know. Having his daddy die when he was still in high school set him adrift for a while, and I was in no shape to help him. But of all my children, I always felt that Billy was the smartest. Oh, we used to call him the walking encyclopedia.
Billy and I were kind of in awe of Mother. We both wanted to, we kind of competed for her affection, I would say. Billy generally won, by the way.
A lot of folks think that Earl and I had only 2 children, Jimmy and Billy, but we had 2 beautiful daughters in between those sons. In 1926, Gloria was born. Now, Gloria was always into motorcycles, Harleys. I think the reason that she and her daddy were loggerheads so often was because they were more alike than different. And she became a wonderful public speaker for a while. And then 3 years later, Ruth was born. Now, Ruth was a very sickly child. She had pneumonia, and we thought she was going to die for sure. Oh. One day, I thought Earl had lost his mind. Earl picked up our little Ruth out of her sickbed and carried her to the front window. I begged him to put her back, but he said, and I never forgot what he said. He said, I want her to see the sunshine one more time. Well, she turned out to be one of the strongest of us all. And a wonderful preacher. Oh, she was a big help to Billy. Her words and her work, they helped a lot of people. Why? Jimmy says his sister Ruth changed his life. Well, you see, Jimmy was going through a rough spot. And Ruth asked him, if you were arrested for being a Christian, would there be enough evidence to convict you? Now, That was Ruth's gift to Jimmy. That question got him thinking, and that thinking changed his life. Now, while I was raising my children, I continued working as a nurse. I worked full-time at the hospital, but so many of our friends and neighbors were black, and they couldn't be treated at the hospital. So after work, I would help them out whenever and however I could. It just made sense to me.
And she didn't have to accommodate the segregationist mores of the South in those days. She could get away with it because she was almost immune to criticism.
You see, many times I was already at work when they got up in the morning.
She would come home at night at 10 o'clock, take a shower bath, wash her uniform, write instructions for me and my sisters, and then she would go back on duty at 2 o'clock. So she was only home 4 hours in the middle of the night, so I never saw her much when I was a teenager.
So I'd write out their tasks every day on a piece of paper, and I'd leave that paper on a little desk we had in the hallway. It didn't take them long before they were calling that desk Mama.
Even in those early days, I got a sense of Mother's treatment of everybody as equals.
She was a kind-hearted person, and she would take up time with you, like when you walk in the street, and you meet somebody, sometimes they'll, just stop and talk to you.
My father died when I was 13, and Jimmy's mother would come for months and help Mother with him, turn him in his bed, give him his shots and things like that. She did that for everybody in town, and race was no consideration for her.
Whatever we needed, she was always there to help. Because we had to turn my brother, the one that I told you broke his hip, we had to turn him sometime, and she would stop by. Because where we lived at that time, the Carters had to pass by us to get to plane down here, because we was out in the country. And she would stop and, do whatever she could for us. And if we got sick, she was there for us. I've been a part of the Carter family all my life. So.
She never distinguished between African Americans and white people. She never distinguished between rich and poor. And all of our neighbors were African American. And so she nursed primarily among the African American families.
My papa acted like skin color didn't matter to him, so it didn't matter to me. I knew that was Papa's gift to me. Funny how those gifts work out. Oh, I heard about, and I saw all the vicious, cruel, hateful things that were done to colored folks. Even I can't get used to calling them blacks or African Americans, but I think people have the right to be called whatever they like, especially if it helps them feel better about themselves.
We had to walk to school. We didn't have no buses. My kids, my oldest daughter, when she started to school, she was walking. Well, I was living in Webster County at that time. But then when they later, I can't remember the year, but then they got buses. And but I never rode a school bus. But we had to walk to get our high school education. And when we got the first bus, they had a black fender on that. That was for the blacks. And the other bus was for the white. And we had no new books in school. We had no new books. We got the books where the other children threw away. A long time ago, you went to your church, we went to our church. But now we can communicate if we want to. We can go there, they can come here. Y'all got some bad ones, we got some bad ones. Y'all got some good ones, we got some good ones. So we all going to the same heaven or hell. It's not but one. So if we live the Lord like we said we do, we could just come together and be one. Mm-hmm.
A young man had climbed up to the top of the water tower, right in Plains. Poor black kid.
I really knew his father. I knew the boy's father, who was the abusive one. And the little boy said that he climbed up the tower to get away from his stepfather, as a matter of fact, who was very punitive to him.
The fire department was there. the police, and a crowd had gathered. It was like the circus had come to town, but this kid said if anybody came up there to try to take him down, he'd jump.
And he wouldn't come down, I wouldn't talk to anybody. But my mother had a special way with them, and she was kind of a hero among the African-American community here in Plains. So she volunteered to climb up the water tower and to talk to the little boy. She finally talked him into coming down.
When I got up to the top and I walked around to where he could see me, every muscle in his body tensed up, but he didn't jump.
And she made the father promise her that he would, not punish the boy anymore.
Does your daddy do that often? I see, well, that's got to stop. I'll see to it that it stops.
So I knew the family, of course. We were all just, you might say, around Plains, just one family. So she saved the little boy's life, and
One of the highlights of our life was being present at the first Major League Baseball game that Jackie Robinson played in. Oh, my. Earl and I were so excited to be at this game. Unfortunately, there were a few rotten apples in the crowd, and one of them was sitting right behind us. He was yelling the most ugly, hateful, vicious things at Jackie, and he was a Dodger fan. Oh, I was getting so angry, and frankly, I was getting scared for Jackie. I wanted to say something that would shut this guy up, but Earl thought it best if I just kept quiet. Not something I was ever very good at.
she had a raucous voice you could hear all over the stadium.
Well, at last came the 7th inning stretch, and Earl went off to get us some hot dogs. Well, no sooner had he left than this guy started in on Jackie again, and I just could not keep my mouth shut. Excuse me, sir. I'd appreciate it if you kept your comments to yourself. Yes, I know it's a free country. I wonder if you know that. In addition to my nursing, I also farmed pecans. Oh, pecans were always my favorite. And I tell you, farming pecans is like picking up money off the ground.
Mother was an independent entrepreneur of her own, and Daddy let Mother harvest all the pecans on our farm.
I used to pick up pecans with her, and she would climb in the tree. She climbed the trees and knock the pecans down. Mm-hmm.
She had the pecans, and they were hers, and she picked them up, and Ruth and I helped her, and she had the money from the pecans.
So she would take off from nursing every year during November and just harvest pecans, polish them up or shell them, and then sell them in America.
I made enough money every year from my pecans to pay for all of our Christmas presents. One year, I made more from my pecans than I did from nursing. We always had enough, Earl and I, even during the Depression. Oh, I just couldn't turn people away. I know it irritated Earl, and he always wondered why all the drifters came to our door. So one day I asked this fella, and he told me very politely, he said, "Ma'am, it's your mailbox." And then he explained, you see, they marked mailboxes. And ours said that we didn't mistreat them, and we didn't turn them away. I never told Earl that, because I knew he'd have Jimmy paint over the mailbox, and I think our children learned a lot from those folks. They were just down on their luck, looking for any kinds of work, for money or food. So I guess you could say that was my secret from Earl. In 1953, Earl kept a secret from me. He was sick. When he was finally diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, I was scared. I was shocked. And I was angry. Why didn't he tell me sooner he wasn't feeling right? I was a nurse, for God's sake. I would have seen to it that he saw a doctor. Something could have been done, but it was like he just decided to give up, like he decided to die. Damn! Damn!
When Daddy died, Mother was still nursing. And the men in the county, Daddy was had just been elected to the legislature, was serving his first year when he passed away. So they came over and offered Mother his seat in the legislature if she wanted it.
And I explained that running a peanut farm was all the time I needed with nuts.
Just on the spur of the moment, she would come back with something that nobody else would have thought of. I don't know how she did it.
Later on, she took a job at Auburn University as Housemother of the KA fraternities, which was a very wild and undisciplined fraternity then and now, I think. Mother did that for 7 years. And then when she retired from that job, the local pharmacist, whose son is now the mayor of Plains, by the way, opened up a nursing home in South Georgia, and she went down and to get it started.
She went to Blakely, Georgia, and my mother-in-law, Miss Godwin, and Mr. Godwin owned a nursing home down there. Well, Miss Lillian said, "I can help you do that, Doc."
My mom and Carter's mother worked at the hospital when the hospital was up here. It's a nursing home now, but they worked together there.
Even though she was tough and hard and everything, she had the ability to love and to nurse everybody. She never turned down a case. I never turned down a bad situation with somebody really sick. She could get in there and really do it. She was a good nurse.
She stayed there 3 years. And finally she came home and said she was tired of being around old folks.
In 1966, Jimmy was a member of the Georgia State Senate, and I, at the unlikely age of 68, decided to go into the Peace Corps.
One day she was watching TV and saw an ad that said, you know, join the Peace Corps, the age is no limit.
She was old then, by standards back then.
Well, it was new. It was an adventure I thought I could take part in, especially because I'd been a nurse.
So she thought she would kind of surprise Billy and me, my brother and me, by coming down and telling us she was going to join the Peace Corps. She said later she expected us to say, "No, Mama, you can't go." But we were excited about it. We said, "That's great, that's wonderful." So Mother was kind of taken aback.
She made shocking remarks a lot of times. I didn't know whether she was serious then or not, but she was. And I think we were all happy about it because she was not one to just sit around and do nothing, tend house and that kind of thing.
But she joined the Peace Corps. She was 68, and she asked for a poor country where people were dark-skinned. So they sent her to India.
In December of that year, 36 other volunteers and I were flown to New Delhi.
So Mother lived in a little village called Bikhroli, which was owned by a very rich family named Godrej, and they owned the entire village.
I was assigned to a clinic just outside of Bombay. My first day there, a little girl with leprosy came in all by herself, and I was terrified.
But Mother was looked upon by the Godrej family and by other people as an untouchable, because she dealt with human excrement. She, nursed lepers, so she was unclean.
She tried to cover up her sores, but they were everywhere. The doctor in charge looked at me very casually and said, "You take this one." I almost fainted. I put on my mask. I gave her the shot as quickly as I could, and then I ran down the hallway to the bathroom, and I scrubbed my entire body, red and raw. Every week, that little girl came in for her treatment. And every week, I dreaded it. The chore of it, not the child. But after a few weeks, I became a little less frightened. And I looked her in the eye, and I saw that she trusted me. Me, a strange, old, white woman from another country. A Christian, if she even knew that. And I started looking forward to her visits. I know I shouldn't expect much from her treatments, but it seemed that something inside of her and something inside of me started to change. We'd hold hands, and I'd manage a few phrases in her language. And I loved her. Oh. One day, I took her little face in my hands, and I kissed her. I just had to. It didn't matter. Well, the doctor in charge heard about that, and he was furious. The next day, he scolded me in front of everyone. "That child has infectious leprosy and must not be touched," he yelled. "It's survival of the fittest here, Missy. Do not try to change us in the short time that you are here. We know what we can do, but we also know what we cannot do. Do not expect miracles." And I said to him, I said very quietly, I said, "Doctor, the miracle's already happened. Whether that little girl lives or dies."
She had a very good friend there, the gardener, who worked for the Godrej family. He had two children. One was a boy and one was a girl, but the girl was not permitted to go to school. And Mother had no way to repay him. She spent all her Peace Corps salary on medicines. So she finally decided that she would teach his little girl how to read and write.
My best days in India in those 2 years were the days that I spent with that little girl, Madhavi. Oh, the times with her, they were just delightful. Just Madhavi and I, just the two of us, one-on-one, face-to-face in the English language. Oh, what a sweet little smart little girl.
When Rose and I got back from the White House, we became interested in Habitat for Humanity. Well, it took several hundred volunteers. We built 100 houses in India, and they asked me where I wanted to build them. I told them I wanted to build them near where my mother was in the Peace Corps. So they had a big reception for us when we got there. I just asked Mr. Godrej, whatever happened to this little girl? He said, "Oh, she's in the back of the room." So she stood up, the tall, beautiful girl. And I said, "Well, Debbie, what do you do now?" She said, "I'm president of the university here." So she had learn how to read and write from my mother and become the president of the university.
She became a celebrity when she came home from the Peace Corps because she traveled and made speeches, and she was really wonderful because you never knew what she was going to say, and she never wrote a speech, and she'd just stand up and talk, and sometimes she talked a long time.
We had a good way to judge how to when to visit her and when to stay away from her. She played poker with a bunch of women in Americas, and she kept, everything was in dimes, so just bet dimes and won dimes. So she had a canvas bag from the bank in which she kept her winnings. When it was full, we knew Mama was in a good mood, so we would be eager to be the first one there in the morning. But when her bag was kind of half empty, we stayed away from Mama for a day or two because she was in a bad mood. So she had, you know, a mind of her own. And she had a bunch of kind of offbeat friends from Hollywood.
I became wonderful friends with Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra, and every time they were performing in Las Vegas, they would invite me to come and see them perform.
They would invite her out to Las Vegas every year to play blackjack. And when she arrived out there, they always had a
brand new dress for me to wear.
She would put it on, and then she would go upstairs and play
blackjack with Frank. And I'd win.
And they always arranged, somehow or another, for Mother to win about $1,500, but that was as much as she could ever win. So she knew that when she went to Las Vegas, she was going to win $1,500. She got a new dress. So she did that almost every year.
And I was a frequent guest on the Johnny Carson show.
And neither she nor I ever knew what she was going to say. And so I used to watch the Johnny Carson shows with great trepidation, not having any idea what my mama was saying. And the news reporters the next day would ask me questions about, do you agree with your mama when she said this and that?
And she was different. And from most people, she was outspoken. She would say things to shock you. She's the only person growing up in the Deep South that I knew who would say a kind word about Abraham Lincoln. And she would just do it to shock people.
She was just a regular person when it came to the press corps. Nothing snooty about her. And she appreciated the give and take. But again, you wanted to be very careful and not really cross her. That would not be a good thing to do.
Over the years, there were plenty of stories about reporters. Oh, during the presidential campaign, everyone knew about the interview that Jimmy did for the Playboy magazine. So many reporters asked me if I thought it was wrong of Jimmy to do that.
And there was a woman reporter that they didn't like very much.
No, I do not think it was wrong for Jimmy to do that interview for Playboy magazine.
Now, Miss Lillian, your son is saying that he'll never lie to us. Did he ever lie? Did he ever tell a lie in his life?
Jimmy's just never been a liar. He goes around telling the truth all the time. In fact, if you listen to him on his campaign, he tells the voters that if he lies to them, don't vote for him. Which sort of puts the burden on me now, doesn't it? Well, just to balance off the family ticket. I have to lie. I lie all the time. Mostly white lies.
Well, what's the difference? What's a white lie?
Do you remember a few minutes ago when I said I was glad to meet you?
You did not come at her trying to hurt her family. And that person left with nothing to tell, but it's been a wonderful story to, I think, share with everyone. If you love your family, you stand up for them.
I don't know why so many people think that all Christians are walking around with a stick up their backside. No, I read the interview. I looked at the naked pictures. Didn't bother me. I cannot recall, though, how I got a copy of Playboy magazine. It was not sold in Plains, Georgia. In fact, Billy wanted to read the interview, and he knew he wouldn't be able to get a copy in Plains, so he hired a young man to go over to Americus. Now, that's about 10 miles away from Plains, and it's a bigger town. And he asked this young man to pick him up a Playboy and bring it back. Well, several hours later, this young man came back to town, and he had an armful of girly magazines for Billy, and he told him that they were all out of Playboys, but he thought that these would do Billy just fine. Might have been the only time that Billy wanted a Playboy magazine to read an interview.
Jimmy Carter announced at the end of 1974 that in 1976 he would run for the nomination of his party for president. And that was unusual, and people didn't pay a lot of attention to him. But he set out to make it so, and he did it. And I think a lot of the traits that you saw in those days in Jimmy Carter, and then you met Miss Lillian, you understood where he got him.
She would tell all of us children, even one of the letters she wrote home, do your own thing. Don't be deterred by criticism. And don't be afraid to take a chance on doing something that seems impossible if you think it's important.
She was stubborn in a way, and he was stubborn in a way. If she wanted to do something, she moved heaven and earth to do it. And so did he. Hey, you want to bring Menachem Begin and Anwar al-Sadat together and make a peace treaty? He was going to do it, even though it's ridiculous that you could get these people in the same room, yet let alone a peace treaty between Israel and Egypt. But he did it.
Well, first of all, when I was campaigning, my mother worked full time.
When I was on the campaign trail, it seems that my job was to meet people and tell them about Jimmy. Well, I couldn't remember everybody's name, so I called them all honey. I shook hands with a lot of honeys. Jimmy said I probably called the Pope honey, and I'll bet I did.
Nothing she ever did really shocked me, I don't think. She had a great sense of humor. I remember Trivial Pursuit became very popular then, and one of the Trivial Pursuit questions was, who said, when I look at my children, I wish I had remained a virgin? And the answer was, Miss Lillian, my mama. So she had a good sense of humor, but she didn't object to shocking people.
But I was just being myself, so I didn't care. I mean, if you can't be yourself, then who are you? Like, for example, after Jimmy had gotten a nomination for president, all 3 television networks had their mobile units outside the train depot here in Plains. That was campaign headquarters.
Well, she was a favorite of the news media.
Every morning, on my way into headquarters, I would stop by each trailer and have a cup of coffee.
Let's say she knocked on my door first. Knock on the door. Oh, Miss Lillian, come in. Oh, well, I just thought I'd stop by and say hello. Fine. Would you like some coffee? Yes, I would. I'd like a cup. Would you like a little pickup in your coffee? Don't mind if I do. We take her bourbon down and pour a little bit, splash in the coffee, and sit and talk.
I go to the ABC trailer, have a cup of coffee, a little pick-me-up.
And she'd say goodbye, and she'd go over to the CBS trailer. We'd see her knock on the door. 15 minutes or so, she'd come out. She'd go to the NBC trailer and knock on the door. I think when she left the last trailer, she probably was in good shape, a little pickup every place.
By the time I got to headquarters, I was one happy gal.
Everyone needs pickup in the morning. We appreciated that.
Now, where was I? Oh yes. Jimmy's inauguration. Oh.
Here before me is a Bible used in the inauguration of our first president in 1789. And I have just taken the oath of office on the Bible my mother gave me just a few years ago. This inauguration ceremony marks a new beginning.
I remember when I was inaugurated president, I made my inauguration speech, and we walked down Pennsylvania Avenue, and the whole family were together, and we started to go to the White House for the first time. And my press secretary, Jody Powell, said, Miss Lillian and everybody else, don't anybody speak to the press. They all want to talk to you. And Mama said, Jody, you can go to hell. I'll speak to whom I please. So the news reporters gathered around my mama. I had just been sworn in as president of the United States. And they said, Miss Lillian, aren't you proud of your son? And she said, which one?
So many people ask me if that was the best day of my life. Hell, I almost missed it.
We got in a caravan in Plains, Georgia, the state police and the cars and the Secret Service and all of that, and the press and what have you. And we started out toward Albany, Georgia, where the plane was waiting.
Everyone was in such a hurry so that they wouldn't miss Air Force One. No one remembered to come and pick me up.
Jimmy thought the Secret Service was bringing her. The Secret Service thought the state police was bringing her. Someone else thought somebody else was bringing her. So we waited there for about 30 minutes, and finally up came a car racing at top net speed, and out stepped Miss Lillian and said, "I'm the forgotten one. I'm the forgotten one." It was
What good is it being president if your own damn plane won't wait for you? Oh, but it was a wonderful day. But the best day of my life, oh, I had so many best days.
It's time for Dodger Baseball.
There was a special place in my heart for the Dodgers, and it seems that in time, it was reciprocated.
All the Dodger players would come by and give Mama a kiss on the cheek, and Lasorda was our manager, and he was very nice to Mother.
She was a remarkable lady. She had walked all the way across the field from their dugout to here. And she said to me, "I have to look like I'm a brave family. I have to listen to my son. But in reality, I love you and the Dodgers." She tried to hide it.
She would scream for the Dodgers, even though she was in Ted Turner's Braves box.
She let it out. He loved her. I know I must have got her son upset, but she looked back and sees me, and then she winks. And she told me, "Tommy, I love you, and I want you to win." And by golly, we won.
I'm going to tell you something that even the family didn't know until after I passed away. In the back of my closet, I had a full Dodger uniform.
We sent her that, yeah.
I was not really surprised at the end of her life when we found a complete Dodger uniform with spikes and everything else in her closet. She and he were very close friends.
Tommy and his wife, Jo, they became wonderful friends of mine. And, Tommy would call me now and again for some advice. Tommy, I'm so glad you called me back. Well, yes. Oh, well, I'm feeling fine. Of course, I won't be stealing many bases this season, so you'd be wise to put me on the DL.
She was a real Dodger fan. She always talked to me.
She would call him on the phone and give him hell, really.
She was tough.
I think you might want to be careful about overworking that new young pitcher of yours, Valenzuela. I know the fans are going nuts over him, but the kid's only 20. Uh-huh. Well, you're the manager. You know best some of the time.
I'm so happy that I could say that I love her.
God bless you, too.
Even at her funeral, people were telling Miss Lillian stories. The affection for her wasn't limited to the press corps. People who knew her there in Georgia came from miles around, not because her son was president either. It was for her.
After I passed away, Jimmy wrote a book about me, and he called it A Remarkable Mother. But as far as I'm concerned, I had a remarkable family. Our Ruth continued her ministering, preaching, and writing books about spiritual healing through love. Tens of thousands of people were positively affected by her words and her work. Ruth was a special darling to Earl, and she was special to me too. Maybe because she was so sickly as a child, or maybe just because she was our Ruth. In 1983, exactly 30 years, after her daddy had done the same thing. Our Ruth died of pancreatic cancer. After Earl died, I thought I could not hurt that badly again, but losing Ruth, the worst thing that any parent should have to do is bury a child. And I was at the time already sick and weak with breast cancer and pancreatic cancer, and about 5 weeks after Ruth passed, I also died. But Billy was sober 10 years when he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Oh, he was in great pain there at the end, and some of his friends suggested that he take a drink to ease the pain, but he refused. He said he'd worked so hard to get sober, he did not want to allow himself to die a drunk. Though there were 12 years difference in their ages, Jimmy and Billy remained close until the day that Billy died. Oh, and my wild cub, oh, Gloria was a harmonica-playing, Harley-riding, fun child. She taught art, and she converted her Georgia farmhouse into a stopover place for bikers on their way to Daytona. She had a wonderful garden where she grew all her own food, which she would then prepare and serve to her unexpected guests. In 1978, Gloria was named the most outstanding female motorcyclist in the country. In 1990, when Gloria died of pancreatic cancer, her funeral procession was led by a fleet of Harley bikers. Now, some of you are probably wondering how it was that so many of us died of pancreatic cancer. Well, there has been some research done on that. And there is a theory, it has not been proven, but there's a theory that if one is genetically predisposed, there's an enzyme in peanuts that can cause pancreatic cancer. Who knows? But it's possible. But Jimmy never got pancreatic cancer. Also, he was the only member of our family who didn't smoke. Earl Carter, we did real good.
Grandmama, you know how much I miss you. And I'm gonna cry because and I'm an ugly crier. Ooh. You know how much I miss you, but I do know that you're sitting right here on my shoulder and that you are always looking after me, but you had the type of strength that I think we all need sometimes to keep us brave. I just wish I could be half the woman she was, you know. But I've tried, and I tried it, and I've taught my children that you don't back down, you know.
I know you loved your family very much, and they loved you also.
I said, hello, Miss Lillian, how you doing? This is one of your black daughters, Mayor.
What do you think she would say to you?
Kiss my ass.
Ain't no telling what she would say. She would say, oh, poop, Mayor.
I know, Miss Lillian, you know that I always tried my best to make you look so good. It wasn't hard to do. Sometimes I just had to sweeten it up a little bit, though. But Miss Lillian, I'd also like to thank you for making me part of the woman that I am today. A woman who can make her own decisions, make her own money, give it to who she wants to, not look at a person for their color, but for their need. You are a wonderful example of that. If we could just have a little bit more of that in our world today. We need more Miss Lillians here today.
I just miss her and having someone that I could respond to about anything. She was just like, almost like my own mother, because she cared for me and had been such a part of my life, and I miss her. Mm-hmm. I miss her remarks. I miss her opinions on things, because she didn't always feel the way about things that most people did. And I miss coming to this house on Christmas morning with her and eating breakfast. She was part of my life for such a very long time, and a wonderful, interesting, I think, special person. Not just special to me, but just a very special person.
Thank you for who you were. Thank you for who you are remembered as today. And thank you for giving us the 39th President of the United States.
If your mother had written her own eulogy, what do you think she would have said?
I think she would say, I'm not sure, I never thought about that before, but I think she would say, I lived my life to the fullest. I took advantage of all the talent and ability that God gave me, and I did the best I could.
Miss Lillian just asked Ed if that was really iced tea he was drinking. And it's no fun at all, is it? You occasionally,
Take a little nip. I left Atlanta. You know, the difference in time confuses me.
Right.
And I never take my nip until just before I have supper. We call it supper at my house.
We did in the Midwest also?
Well, of course,
Supper.
and that's what it really is.
That's right.
And I take that little bourbon every evening just before supper.
A couple of fingers,
Yeah, well, I won't know. I don't know, just a little one.
Sure.
And we got on the plane, and it was 5 o'clock plane's time, and it was about 2 California time. And I made the big mistake of putting my watch back to California time. And here, the minute we left, here she was serving cocktails, and I said, with alcohol? Yeah. I said, I can't take a drink until 5 or 6 o'clock. You know what I did? I set my watch back.
And then had it.
And I'm sorry.
Everybody has to get a little risque once in a while, don't you think?
Have you ever made a speech to a crowd when nobody smiled?
Many times, right here. Many times.
can't tell you how excited I am on our 5th anniversary week to have one of the great women of the world with us today. She is an authoress, a lecturess, Peace Corps volunteer, and above all, a humanitarian. The world calls her Miss Lillian. President Carter calls her Mom. Please welcome Miss Lillian Carter.
Can I talk?
Sure, you can talk.
Oh, you know, I had the last audience with the Pope. Pope Paul, I want to tell you what happened. Oh, I didn't know then that I was having the last, but he made me feel like I was in the presence of God. He was such a holy-looking man. I'm not Catholic, but I kind of wish I was, because it was so wonderful. I asked him to pray for rain in this drought-ridden country for 5.5 years that they hadn't had a crop on account of the drought. And the underground wells were drying up and everything. That's what I was going for, to see. I asked him to pray for rain. And Donald, some of my Baptist people think I'm superstitious, but no, I'm not, because everywhere we went, it rained.
Really?
And they said, and it was just wonderful. We first went to Gambia, and we got there about an hour later. It rained. Every country we went to, it rained except Timbuktu. By the time we got to Timbuktu, I wanted to call the Pope and tell him to hold off.
Hold it. Enough already.